All right, we're live. Okay, so thank you all for being here today. Let me move my script. Before we begin, I have a short message from our lovely UCI Decide coordinator. He would like to remind you all that you shouldn't forget to register to vote. So check your voter registration status or update it with the link in the chat. Yaneli will type that in the chat for you all. And this will help UCI win the ballot bowl competition, which we're actually getting pretty close to, I think, top 5 with. Your vote is critical, especially at the local level, so make a plan to vote. For those living in Irvine, the UCI Student Center will serve as a vote center on October 30th to November 3rd. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to email us or attend our daily office hours. We'll put all of that information in the chat for you.
All right, good evening and thank you for joining us. My name is Alan Calderon and I'm the External Vice President of ASUCI.
And I'm Hillary Nguyen, the External Vice President, Chief of Staff for ASUCI. Hello, everyone. We would like to welcome all of UC Irvine Anteaters, Irvine residents, and the larger community for being here with us. Tonight, the External Vice President of ASUCI, Undergraduate Student Government, and the Vice President of External Affairs for AGS, UCI's Student Graduate Government, have partnered to bring to you a debate between the candidates for Irvine City Council. We are joined by 5 candidates who were randomly selected to debate on the second night of this event. The topics, questions, and structures for tonight have been determined by the planning committee for this event. The questions have not been seen by anyone outside of the planning committee for this debate. Only the topics have been released to the candidates. Tonight's speaking order has been decided by a random drawing with the candidates present.
The structure for this debate is as follows. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions on our 3 main topics for the night: COVID-19, affordable housing, and Irvine environment. In each section, we will ask a relevant follow-up question where candidates will have only 1 minute to respond. In the second half of the debate, candidates will answer questions submitted by the community and will have each 1 minute to respond. Finally, candidates will be given 2 minutes to make their closing remarks. At the end of the debate, candidates may choose to stay back and talk to the attendees. This will be an opportunity for attendees to directly talk to the candidates. Each candidate present tonight has agreed to the rules. Before we begin, we'd like to make clear that all 14 candidates that filed candidacy and qualified for the ballot were invited to participate in this debate. Mark Nugent, Mike Carroll, John Park, and Hai Yang Ling declined to participate. Let's begin. Dylan Green, you are first to deliver your opening statement.
Together here tonight. I think it's a very exciting experience to be able to have 5 of us here talking policy all night, hopefully. My name is Dylan Green. If you haven't heard my name on the campaign trail yet, I'm actually a student here at UCI. I'm a graduate student. I did my undergrad here, so I'm actually intimately familiar with the whole process of ASUCI and everything, although I never participated myself. I have lived in Irvine since 2004, and since 2004, I have watched the city council and the city as a whole go in a direction that I'm frankly not pleased with. Eventually, I decided to take up the mantle of public service myself and run for city council, and I'm running to bring change to city council. But change is a big theme of my campaign. I am different from most candidates running. I have lived here for 16 years. I know that's not the most of the candidates, but I did grow up here, which is something that I think not a lot of candidates can say. I have a unique perspective and I see the problems of Irvine being mainly my focus is development and traffic, accountability and transparency, and education. I have detailed plans for combating all of these, addressing all of these that I hope to at some point talk about tonight. I have detailed plans for basically every situation you could imagine, because that's who I am. I like to have plans. I like to know what we're facing. I like to know how to face it. I have presented all of my plans publicly in the interest of transparency and accountability, and I will continue to do so after tonight. I hope that we have a good debate tonight. I'm excited for the topics that were chosen for tonight, and I'm ready to get in and talk about my policy, really, and hopefully people will be pleased with my performance. Because like I said, Irvine, it's time for a change, and I'm ready to bring it.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley, you are second to deliver your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing. My name is Carrie O'Malley, and I've lived here in Irvine for 23 years. I've raised my children here. I have 2 teenage children. I was born and raised in the Los Angeles area. I'm the daughter of an immigrant. I know what hard work and the work ethic is, and that's what I was raised with. Hard work, gratefulness, and a strong work ethic. I have decades of public policy experience at the state and local levels. I attended UC Santa Barbara. I'm very familiar with the UC system, and I'm a big fan of the UC system, and I'll get to more of that later. And then I for law school. I decided not to practice straight into public policy. And like I said, I've had decades of public policy experience. I've worked at the Orange County Transportation Authority. I've worked at the California State Assembly, the United States Senate, the Attorney General's office, and also with the Orange County Board of Supervisors as a senior policy advisor. I have the know-how and I know how to get things done. I've also been a city commissioner, I've been a transportation commissioner, and I do have a transportation background as well. I am currently an original homeowner here in North Park in Irvine. We are one of the largest villages of Irvine, where I sit on my HOA as vice president, and I've had that role for 6 years. It's an elected position, so I have 3 times, and I've worked very hard for our residents here in North Park. What I want to do with the city council is I'm running for inclusivity and leadership for all of Irvine. That is my slogan, leadership for all of Irvine with inclusivity, kindness, and respect. I am running a campaign that includes everybody, UCI students, residents, newcomers, people who have been here for decades, everybody. When I'm on the city council, I want to initiate an ethics commission. I want to make sure we have a high quality of healthcare advocacy and education. And I want to make sure our quality of life is respected and kept at a top-notch level. I will preserve and protect our open spaces as I have as a transportation commissioner, and I will work my hardest for you each and every day. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Larry Agrin, you may now deliver your opening statement. Larry, I believe you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank the entire UCI community, the associated students. I must say, I feel very comfortable participating in this gathering tonight. My wife and I are products of the UC system. We grew up as Southern California kids, and having done that, we attended UCLA, UC Berkeley. We actually participated in UC Berkeley's free speech movement in the 1960s. Those were very exciting years and different from now, but they helped set for us our values and our determination to be a part of the political process going forward. When my wife, Phyllis, was accepted to UCI Medical School as part of a new class of women who were admitted for the first time, that brought us to Orange County and to Irvine. And we discovered that we were part of a new planned community that had every opportunity for us to participate in that planning, realize our dreams for our community. And so I began to get involved along with my wife in civic affairs, ran for city council. As it turns out, served on the city council as a council member and mayor, including mayor for 10 years for a number of decades. I'm in this race now because it's imperative that our city be reclaimed from the clutches of developers who have taken over pretty much city government and the city's agenda. I want to speak to these issues as we go on tonight. But again, my name's Larry Agrin, and I want to thank everybody for participating tonight.
Thank you. Tammy Kim, you are fourth to deliver your opening statement.
Thank you so much for having me here this evening. And I want to thank all of you in the audience for viewing. My name is Tammy Kim, and like 45% of all residents in Irvine, I too am a first-generation American. My family came to this country when I was a year old in search of opportunities and the American dream. But like so many first-generation immigrants at that time, my family struggled. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and then I worked my way up the corporate ladder, eventually becoming an executive for a major Fortune 500 technology company. And after having lifted up my own family out of poverty, I gave back by founding a nonprofit organization here in Irvine called the Korean American Center. And as someone who's lived in Irvine for the past 16 years, my decision to run is rooted in my concern for our community. I'll leverage my experience as a finance commissioner, a nonprofit leader, a community advocate, and a mother to serve our residents. Because I believe our city council must reflect and uphold a bold vision for our city, a city that is well planned, innovative, sustainable, and supports a high quality of life for all our residents, not just a few, including our UCI students who contribute so much to the fabric of this city and to our economy. I'll bring a global perspective and a bold vision to the city council. And when elected, I'll ensure that the city leads the way on areas of social justice, environmental protection, access to affordable housing, economic opportunity, and respect for diversity and inclusion. You deserve a representative with an eye on the future, who will build Irvine's profile as a city of innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laura Bratton, you are fifth to deliver your opening statement.
Hello, I'm Laura Bratton. Thank you for having me. I just want to say that I am an 18-year resident, and no, I was not raised in Irvine, but I raised my daughter here. And she went to the best schools, and we used to have the best air. Back when I first came here, I came here for, of course, the schools, the air, the parks, less traffic. Everything was clean and beautiful. And I love Irvine, and that's why I stayed, even now that she's an adult. I just want to say that I am for better change, because we can all change, but we need better change. And I agree, we do need an ethics committee, because not everybody is ethical. And sometimes when people get into office, they say they're ethical, but they end up doing something different. And that's the problem. I just want to say that I am for clean air, police accountability, homelessness. All these issues need to be addressed, as well as COVID, #1. And we need awareness testing and resources on that. I just want to say that I am very happy to be here, and let's go with the questions. Look forward.
Thank you, everyone. Our first topic is COVID-19. The pandemic has had substantial impacts on residents of Irvine, including students, when it comes to job security. Many have had their hours cut or lost their jobs altogether. What steps would you take as a council member to establish a safety net for Irvine residents who have been impacted? And are you supportive of rental assistance, rent cancellation, or any similar program to help residents in these times? We will start with Carrie O'Malley.
Thank you. That's a great question. COVID-19's been on everybody's mind. It's taken over 2020, and we need to provide for our residents. We need to be there for the UC Irvine students. We need to be there for the residents. Absolutely, I have a plan, and it would be everything from helping small businesses to my healthcare advocacy and education I've been talking about, to reaching out to UC Irvine students. As far as the small businesses, I would initiate a small business advisory committee. And that would help with liaisoning with the businesses to make sure that small business loans, SBA loans, are available to small businesses, and making sure that our community continues to thrive despite COVID-19. As far as the healthcare and education, we need to ramp up the testing. We need to make sure masks are prevalent and that has access to all of these things, to PPE, to anything that we can do to make our community safer and healthier. And as students of UC Irvine, we need to partner with UCI. They're right here in Irvine. And as I say, I'm a huge fan of the UC and of the students. Like I said, I was a UC student, and forever it's in my heart. We need to make sure that there is housing available and affordable for the students. And I have a plan for that. And my plan is to work very hard with UC Irvine public-private partnership with UC Irvine and with some of the those that own the apartment, and make sure we can provide affordable rent for the students, for not just while they're in school, but if they're graduate students or taking a year or two to get their careers off the ground. We need to make sure that we are there for the students and are there as they're getting their careers off the ground. So again, I would like to partner with public-private partnership with UC Irvine, the City Council, and those property owners, as well as a healthcare education and advocacy available for all the residents, plus the UC Irvine students who are here on the campus and in apartments near the campus, as well as helping local businesses. So it would be many of these aspects coming together to help in COVID times. Again, I will work my hardest every day on the City Council and provide for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Agron, you may now answer.
Thank you. I want to speak about failure. With respect to the pandemic, not only have we had a national failure, we have had a total failure of preparedness as well here in the city of Irvine and in Orange County. We've had a failure of leadership. Elected officials have been way unprepared and indeed fighting against appropriate public health policy rather than instituting appropriate public health policy. Right here in the city of Irvine, here we are, a city daytime population of 500,000 people, and we are totally lacking in even an office of public health. We don't have a chief health officer. We don't have any comprehensive public health program for the city of Irvine. That needs to change. We also need an office of small business assistance, not just as a pass-through of federal and state funds, but as a means of actually giving material assistance as well as public health advice, protective equipment, and so forth to our local businesses, particularly the smaller businesses. We also need an Office of Emergency Rental Assistance. This is to help renters who are being driven from their apartments, and in many cases, homeowners as well. We need to partner with UCI. UCI has to ask itself, why has it not played a larger role throughout Orange County during this pandemic? The city needs to partner with UCI, but in a way that we can be an example as a city to other cities, to the county as a whole, and to the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Kim, you may now answer.
Yes, and I would have to agree with Larry. This is really about the failure of our leadership to do what is needed to be done. Currently, we're experiencing a $22 million deficit, budget shortfall as a result of decline in sales tax revenue, hotel tax revenue, and recreational fees. But unfortunately, what many Irvine residents don't realize is that the County of Orange received $500 million from the federal government for the CARES Act. And the city of Irvine should have received up to $49 million of that to provide for added assistance to our businesses and for rental relief programs. And unfortunately, we have a city council led by a mayor who will not stand up directly to the Board of Supervisors to ensure that the city of Irvine receives our fair share of resources. And as a result, we have not been able to adequately provide for our small businesses or provide any rental relief for our student residents, as well as our full-time residents as well. And this has got to end. We need to work hard to ensure that we demand the resources that is our fair share. Additionally, we need to partner with community-based organizations to ensure that we have adequate testing here. Currently, the city of Irvine is offering testing for symptomatic people only, but testing is going to be really important for the asymptomatic. That is how we're going to open up our businesses back, and that's how students will get back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Bratton, you may now answer.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Hi, regarding COVID-19, the past 6 or 7 months, all this is new to everyone. Congress, the senators, everyone, including us. So we, need to take that in accountability. But as a public servant, because that's what we're all gonna be, we're gonna serve you guys. And I think, we lost, not myself, but certain people lost track of that. And as far as COVID, we need self-awareness. I agree with Tammy, more testing. Resources, there are resources out there. People can call 211. I'm on Nextdoor. People are constantly, people that work at Ralph's and at different clinics, they're also letting us know who's testing. Sometimes they'll get on there and say, hey, Ralph's has Lysol. So we are working together to make it better. I will say that we all need to brainstorm. We all need to get together and brainstorm what's the next step, because we're speculating on what we'll do, but we really don't know. It hit everyone. This is foreign to everyone. But right now we do have testing. You can go to Rite Aid, they have testing. You can go to Walgreens, they have testing. So awareness is out there. As far as rental assistance, when I first came to Irvine, I was on a rental program. I was able to go back to school and get my bachelor's degree as well as my master's degree with my child. And so I say that to say this, Irvine has a host of programs. Yes, more programs should probably be implemented because of what's going on in the world right now. And I know myself, I Googled to see what resources are out there, and there are a lot of resources. And just like Tammy said, the CARES Act, Irvine should have got $49 million. To me, it makes no sense that we're in a deficit right now of $22 million at all. This is a very, very rich community. So being in the negative, when I get into office, I would look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan Green, you may now deliver your answer.
Jobs or lost the ability to pay for their housing here at UCI, as someone who knows a lot of people here. We've talked a lot about failure. We've talked a lot about how we didn't get 49 million for the CARE Act, but what we did get, we got 2 million. And what we did do was we made a rental assistance program. So I want to talk about solutions moving forward. We can't go back and change how we acted to COVID-19 already. We can only change how we're going to move forward. And what I'm going to do, I think, is a multi-stage plan that's going to help everybody. So my first step is going to be expanding the current rental assistance program. 2 million is frankly, I'm in agreement. We should have gotten 49 million or even more. 2 million is just not enough. So we're going to expand the rental assistance program because people who can't pay their rent shouldn't be thrown out on the streets. They should still have a place to live. I'm heavily in favor of continuing the eviction block, continuing the ban on evictions, so that we can help these people stay in their homes during this difficult time. In addition to the rental assistance program, in order to help mom and pop landlords who may be struggling because they're not getting their main source of income from their renters because they may be paying property tax or land tax, but still not be getting that income, I would set up a program similar to one that's been trialed in Florida, where you get the banks, you get the city, and you get the landlords together in one room, and you sit down and you say, how can we make this easier for you? How can we reduce your payments on your mortgages, for example? Can we give you tax incentives to not evict people? These are the kind of things we need to be doing to keep people in their homes. The final step of the plan is reopening. To keep people in their homes, they're going to need money to pay that rent. That means we need businesses to open, we need businesses to start paying wages, but they can't do that safely without access to PPE. I find this is the perfect opportunity to start petitioning for more federal budget and then use that budget not only for the rental assistance program, but to provide PPE to small businesses, local businesses, so that they can open and we can get that economy flowing again. That's going to help with the budget shortfall because we'll get the taxes back into the economy, and it's going to help people stay in their homes.
Thank you.
Just a reminder to the attendees that you're able to submit questions to the Q&A function as we go. We are now going to move into open discussion for this topic. Candidates, you may physically raise your hand to be called on. To get the conversation going as a city council member, what steps would you take to ensure a safe reopening of Irvine? Larry Agrin, you may go.
Well, obviously, we need not to pay attention to the Board of Supervisors, not to pay attention to the Trump anti-maskers and so many others who want to reopen, not only reopen businesses too early and without adequate preparation, but of course now we are endeavoring to reopen our schools. Those are the biggest workplaces in Irvine. And what we need is to have all the best advice, assistance, and public health workforce that we possibly can. For example, we don't begin to meet the national standard of one school nurse per school. Think about that. City of Irvine, with all our resources, we don't even have a public health workforce that includes public health nurses and public school nurses adequate to provide nursing skills in the schools. And it's imperative that the city take the lead in doing this.
Thank you. With respect to time, we're going to move on to candidate Tammy Kim.
So again, I'm going to go back to this. We have to set up more aggressive and robust testing program. We have to be able to test our teachers, test our students in order for them to have a safe environment. If we're not testing regularly, the workers at Ralph's, at Albertsons, at Costco, these are, what we call now the essential workers. We have to have these programs set up where there's a weekly or bi-weekly cadence where they're tested. Additionally, we have to make sure that we continue to be aggressive when it comes to our masking policy. The science is extremely clear on this. Masks work. So when elected, I will continue to ensure that we continue our masking policy, which will help reduce community spread. But again, going back to the testing, if we're not testing, our businesses will not be able to open up in confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move on to Laura Bratton.
Yes, I agree. Safe reopening is the key. And also, as I drive around Irvine, there are a lot of businesses that are open right now. And I see people coming in and out of those businesses. I know not as many not as many people are coming in and out of those businesses because of COVID-19, but I do see movement, and I like the movement that I see because it lets me know that Irvine is trying to reopen, but the key is we have to do it safely. We have to be aware of what's going on. We have to respect each other and wear a mask, even if you don't want to wear a mask. Respect your neighbor, respect the person 6 feet away from you, and wear a mask. I'm a strong believer in awareness, staying in line with CDC. That's very, very important because there's only so much we can do because this is a national problem. This isn't just the Irvine problem. So we need to make sure that we're in line with CDC's guidelines. We need to make sure that we open up safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to Dylan Green.
As you're going out into the world, you're potentially exposing yourself to COVID. I understand the push for more testing, and I 100% agree. Here at UCI, we get tested once a week now, whether we're symptomatic or not. We're required to be on campus. That's something that I'd like to see implemented across the whole city. At the moment, again, it comes back to the budget shortfall. I know that Tammy mentioned it. I know that Laura mentioned it at one point. We need to get that money somehow. Part of that is business reopening. Getting them the PPE, getting them the ability to open, that again couples with testing. If they had testing, they could open safely. We could get the tax back into the system. We can get the money flowing again. it all just comes down to making sure everybody's safe, making sure that the money is flowing in the system again, making sure and safely, and that everybody's being safe. I know Larry mentioned schools reopening. That's another big thing. My mom is a librarian at a school. I am in the school basically once a month at least. And I know that a lot of teachers are actually heavily against the potential that they could get tested. And I think if we roll out a more aggressive testing program, they should be the first in line. And we should make them, give them free access to these tests because of that.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley? Carrie, I believe you're on mute still.
Yes, thank you. So first and foremost, we need to reopen, but we need to reopen safely with first and foremost, everyone's health as the first priority. I would advise, as when I'm city councilwoman, to have a COVID advisory committee, which would be at the city level. And we have wonderful healthcare providers such as Hoag and UC Irvine. We need to have representatives from Hoag, from UC Irvine, doctors, medical providers, nurses, practitioners on this committee. We need to have the medical advice there and working with our city officials. So when I'm on the city council, I would have this advisory committee comprised of doctors, nurses, healthcare providers. We need to partner, Hoag, UCI. Again, we need to work with them to have testing and just testing available to all, as well as masks available to all, as I said previously, and also work with our businesses to get them those small business grants to get them up and thriving again. So again, having those services available, having a COVID advisory committee, partnering with our doctors, nurses, Hoag and UCI is of utmost importance.
Thank you, Carrie. And we're going to move on to topic number 2 with Alan.
Thank you, everyone. Topic number 2, Irvine environment. In 2019, the city of Irvine took the first steps to develop a climate action plan. The plan would build on steps already being taken by the city to be more environmentally friendly. Steps already taken include the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions through the use of electric vehicles for the city's fleet and a decrease in the use of chemicals to treat the city's parks and nature areas. As a city council member, how would you use the city's relationship with UC Irvine to make progress on environmental policy? Tammy Kim, you are first.
Yes. So climate change is real. It's the biggest existential threat we have facing humanity. And we have the opportunity to be leaders in the area of environmental sustainability and stewardship. So in addition to protecting our open space and adopting CCE and the Climate Action Plan, we have to build on our city's profile as a city of innovation. And I think we have the opportunity to become global leaders in green technology infrastructure, and we can leverage and utilize UCI as a catalyst for this energy independent future by building new green technology industry. We've got leading research there, right there at the university. We need to develop incubation hubs where we're incubating new R&D, new thought, and new companies here within the city of Irvine. We need to nurture that. We need to allow for more vast partnerships in ensuring that we're not cutting off, F1 and J1 visas as we have been with the Trump administration, and that we're allowing students from all over the world to come here to build upon our city of innovation, and that we're partnering with, again, the incubators with venture-backed companies, and we're not doing enough of that. We're not partnering with the Silicon-based VC firms like Sequoia or Dreessen. There are no portfolio companies here in Irvine, and we need to do that. We need to work with the Irvine Chamber of Commerce to help bring more capital investment and more VC funding into these incubators here at UCI. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laura Bratton, you are second to answer.
Well, Tammy said what I was going to say. I'm just kidding. I agree with what Tammy said. But also, I just want to let people know, solar panels, recycling, all those things and everything Tammy said, that is true. We need to do those things. But also, if we do those things and we continuously have more cars and more traffic, and Irvine continues to overbuild and we still building a lot of gas stations, those things aren't going to be as effective. We need to stand up as a community and say no more. And I commend you young kids in college. I commend you guys protesting safely and peacefully, because you guys showed a lot of us that should have been doing something the past couple of years, and we dropped the ball. And because of that, I am a firm believer that yes, we do need to work with you young minds in UCI so we can all collectively get together and brainstorm on how we can bring self-awareness to all the neighbors so everybody can be doing something. Because we can have those companies and do those things, but if we continue to have more cars, we continue to have more trucks here, we continue to continuously to overbuild and have all this office space and less parks, it's not going to be that effective. But yes, we do need to work with the young minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Green, you may now answer.
Driven my entire life as a young person living in Irvine. It's basically inescapable, the effects of climate change. We all talk about working with the young people, but these people were presenting solutions for years and people have been ignoring them. I mean, some of the biggest climate change research was done here at UCI by Frederick Rines here in the building that I work in. He worked on the CNCs in the atmosphere. Him and Sherwood Rowland, they won Nobel Prizes for their work, not both for climate change, of course. I have a multi-step plan for what to do for climate change based on what people have suggested over the years. It would include expanding the climate action plan. It would include buying into community choice energy, which, if you don't know, is an energy proposal that would fund more alternative energy sources, things like solar and wind, and even potentially nuclear power. Just alternatives to fossil fuels that we need to get into our city. Laura made a good point about getting cars off the street, that the only way we're going to be able to really make this effective is to get gas-powered, diesel-powered cars off the street, which is why my plan includes a proposal for a public transit system, one that was actually approved under Larry Agrin's previous term on the city council. And building that and using it to expand our public transportation network, things like the ice shuttle, things that can get cars off the road, not only to fix the traffic problem, but also to fix the climate problem. Getting cars off the road, like Laura said, is a big deal. I have a lot of plans for climate change. We have solar panels in most of the schools in Irvine now, but we don't have them in all of them. So there's plenty of space still to put solar panels. And that actually leads into my final point, that I have made a pledge that if I'm elected to city council, I will do my best to make every city managed building run entirely on renewable power within 10 years.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley, you may answer. Carrie, you're muted.
Thank you. I've always been a huge proponent of the climate action plan. I spoke in favor of the climate action plan at all the city council meetings I attended when that was on the agenda, as well as the committee at the city. Did the same thing, spoke publicly at both of those committees and the council regarding community choice energy. Yes, we absolutely need to do something to preserve our environment for generations to come and to make sure our open spaces, our wonderful amenities here in Irvine, our green trees, our lush natural reserves, that they're all retained and kept as our gems. But climate change is real. We do something about this. I have been in the offices of UC Irvine professors. I ran 2 years ago. I was the first runner-up, and since then I have not stopped. I have been in meetings with professors on the UC Irvine campus talking about this. How can we help? As I said, I'm vice president of my homeowners association here in North Park. I even partnered with some professors at UC Irvine to see which homeowners associations are in an environmentally friendly way. Working with the professors on that. We need to continue that when I'm on the council, partnering with the UC Irvine professors, partnering with the UC Irvine students and all the research that is going on there, and bringing it to our city and putting this into action in order to help our environment. So not just with the professors' research, but involving students and graduate students as well. When I was transportation commissioner, I worked very hard with the residents of Rancho San Joaquin to preserve and protect their open space, which was being infringed upon and threatened by developers, I voted no to development. And we retained the golf course as open space in Rancho San Joaquin. We're very happy to be working with those residents. In addition, as I mentioned, I have a transportation background. I worked for years at the Orange County Transportation Authority. So bringing OC Flex here as alternative modes of transportation would be wonderful. That, along with many other things such as ATP, active transportation programs, walking, biking, and doing everything we can to protect our environment.
Thank you. Larry Agrin, you may now answer.
Thank you. I want to build on what some of the previous speakers have offered. The fact of the matter is that there is a record of real achievement when it comes to climate action and when it comes to energy efficiency and alternative energy sources and so forth. The example offered by UCI on its own as a major institution is remarkable. Indeed, it's one of the leading universities in the entire world when it comes to dealing with climate action and a climate action plan for its campus, but obviously the kind of plan that can and should be executed in partnership with the city in which the university resides. It's imperative that the city and the university work much more closely on this global challenge, just as we did when I was mayor in the 1980s, late 1980s, early 90s, and we instituted a ban on chlorofluorocarbons and other ozone depleting compounds that directly addressed the stratospheric ozone layer depletion problem. And we did that working, as was mentioned earlier, with Professor Sherwood Rowland and others. And we instituted a city plan that had the effect of creating an example. It was covered by the New York Times. It was a global story. Other cities copied what we did. And as a result, we had local, state, national, and international action that resulted in that case, an action plan that indeed repaired the ozone layer over time. We can do that with climate action as well, and it's imperative that we do that. Thank you.
We are now in open discussion for this topic. Candidates, you may physically raise your hand and be called on. Larry Agrin.
Yes, I wanted to pick up on something else that was said. If there's one big failure in the planning of the city of Irvine, it is the failure to plan ahead with a transportation system, a transit system, alternative modes of transit, alternatives to the private automobile, and of course its consumption of gasoline, fossil fuels. We are a very, very well-planned city, but this was a failure from the start. And although under my leadership, we instituted a transit system, the iShuttle system, running on natural gas, pollution-free. Although we did that, that needs to be expanded. It needs to be doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size. Moreover, we should be on the cutting edge in exploring autonomous vehicles so that we can have vehicles run as part of a transit system at a low cost that really tackles our failure.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry Agrin. Laura, you were next.
Yes, I heard Dylan say that the college students have been saying something and we haven't been listening, and you are completely right. And as a public servant, I am listening now. From my daughter that's 26 to her friends, my cousins and my nieces and nephews, all talked about climate change, especially my relatives and friends that are in college. I am listening now. We need you guys. Also regarding a massive transit system, I don't know, what is that going to be, $280 million? I think that once elected, that is something that I may look into, but I'm not just going to say, yes, that's what we need to do. That's something that we need to all collectively come together so we don't make the mistakes from 8 to 10 years ago. We do it better. The mistakes that we made last year, we do it better. So thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Laura. Tammy Kim, I believe, was next.
Unmuting. Okay. So I'm actually really proud of the fact that as a leader of a major nonprofit organization here in Irvine, we were actually one of the first organizations to sign on to adopt community choice energy. As Dylan would mention, would bring local control back to our residents and our businesses, and it would end the monopoly and bring freedom of choice and competition into the electricity marketplace, and as a result would reduce our rates. But in the city of Irvine, we have to take bold steps to make sure that Irvine is 100% energy efficient, which includes requiring that all new construction is designed for net zero impact, and that our municipal buildings meet LEED standards. As your finance commissioner, I'm proud of the fact that I approved a project that would install more electrical charging stations at City Hall.
Thank you, Tammy Kim. Carrie O'Malley, you can go next.
Thank you. So as I said, I have years of experience at the Orange County Transportation Authority. And even as recent as last year, they've been doing studies about transit and the use of transit, and it's not being used as much as it used to. That's why OC Flex is a perfect system to bring to Irvine. It is public transportation. However, it operates like an Uber. Everyone would download an app on their phone, and for a $5 a day flat rate, this could take you anywhere in the city of Irvine or adjacent cities. And we would work with OCTA, partner with OCTA, our city council, to bring this to Irvine. Right now, it's been piloted in Mission Viejo and Huntington Beach and a couple other cities. It's done well, and it's the perfect option since it would city and adjacent cities, $5 a day flat rate, unlimited use, and it fits 8 people per these Uber minivan style vehicles. We're really excited to bring that to the city of Irvine when I'm city councilwoman, and would love as well with UCI to continue with these efforts on environmentally friendly options. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Green, would you like to respond?
So hopefully everyone can hear now. I just wanted to add a comment about the mass transit system, that this is a perfect opportunity to work with UCI. We here at UCI have implemented our own public transit system. We have the Antietam Express, which is a fully electric bus fleet that operates, runs around the campus, and is quite heavily used by students. I know I use it, before Corona time, I would use it on a daily basis to get between my place and the office that I worked in. And so we talk about working with UCI. This is a perfect place to do it. They've got the experience implementing a system. They can give us that kind of knowledge. And I just wanted to throw that out there. And I also wanted to say that the previous mass transit system was designed to be funded by the county. The reason why it didn't happen was because the county pulled funding. It is a concern how we're going to fund it. But the previous one was designed to be funded by the county. And I think that kind of goes back to Tammy's point that we need to be advocating for this federal and higher office funding that Irvine is not necessarily getting.
I saw Laura raise her hand.
Yes, regarding the transit system, I think that we should do testing before anyone jumps in and says, I'm going to bring this in. I think if we were going to do it, we should test at UCI. It should be at UCI first, because there's college students there that are probably still riding the bus and using Uber a lot. So this may be cost effective for them. But just to say, this is what we need. No, we need to test this first to make sure that the city of Irvine, if we don't need to waste any more money. Thank you.
Yes, Carrie.
Are we comment or?
Sorry, I thought that Laura hadn't answered yet. That was my mistake. Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. All right, thank you, everyone. It looks like there are still a couple of things that everybody wants to say, though just to stay on track with time, we do have to move on to topic number 3. Topic number 3 is housing and development. In late 2019, the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, issued new state mandates to zone for thousands of homes as California continues to grapple with the housing shortage. Many cities across Orange County, including Irvine, have criticized the methodology of SCAG used to distribute homes, saying that it did not take into account their concerns. Earlier this year, the Irvine City Council members adopted a resolution condemning these new housing requirements. As a city council member, what steps would you take to increase the number of affordable housing units in Irvine? And how would you work with other local officials to ensure that affordable homes are distributed in a way that benefits the Irvine community? Laura, you are first to answer.
Thank you. Like I said, when I first came here, I came here on the low income program. So I'm fully aware that Irvine does allocate 2% of their apartment homes to low income residents. I also wanted to say, I know when I was on that program, Irvine had just extended a 47-year extension on that particular apartment complex. I do want to say that this is something that I need to look into a little bit more. So I don't want to jump into it and say we need to do A, B, or C. I just know that my personal experiences with it is that I have friends. There's a host of people that I have met here that came to Irvine on that program, and they used it as a stepping stone and went back to school and got a better job to where they were able to be able to pay the rent and stay in Irvine, or maybe decided to move to Mission Viejo or Laguna Beach. So regarding this matter, like I said, I know that Irvine does allocate it. I know that they have, Orange County has housing programs. I know you can go to One Stop, you can go to 211. There's a host of resources that you can go to. There's about 5 or 6 nonprofit organizations, Family Forward, that will help people with their rent. So there's a lot of programs that are here. I just think that as far as people being aware, they're not aware of what's going on. But if Larry, Tammy, or Dylan knows something that I don't know, please share. Thank you.
Thank you. Dylan Green, you may now answer.
Is that we should increase access to affordable housing. I think that if I've got my numbers right, Irvine has the highest amount of affordable housing in Orange County compared to the other cities nearby. But I also think most of those units are filled now because we're quite a large city and we're growing pretty rapidly. So I would heavily advocate for an increase in affordable housing, which I think goes back to the zoning issue. The city council needs to explicitly zone certain areas as affordable housing. That's something that hasn't been done recently. That's something that hasn't been expanded recently, as far as I'm aware. Of course, there are plenty of locations in Irvine that I think are perfect for affordable housing. There are plenty of places in Irvine that I think are perfect for housing of any type, but I think affordable housing is the one we want to focus on. Again, businesses are opening, businesses are coming to Irvine because we have all these office buildings that we're building now. I know Laura touched on it earlier that we have tons of office buildings. And the thing about bringing all these businesses in is that they need somebody to work in those offices. They need employees, or they're bringing employees with them even. And those people, we want them to stay in Irvine. We want them to contribute to the local economy. We want them to put their money into Irvine so that we can then use that money to make Irvine better for all of us. That's part of the reason why I'm, again, heavily in favor of increasing access to affordable housing, increasing access to programs that will promote affordable housing, tax incentives for not raising rent, to landlords, things like that, programs like that. And I think that's kind of my stance on the issue. I think based on the SCAG guidelines, Irvine is doing decently well in everything from moderate income housing and above, but low income and very low income is where we're not rated very highly. And regardless of the methods, I actually think I kind of agree. I think we need more access to affordable housing. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley, you are next to answer.
Thank you. As I mentioned in one of the previous questions, we definitely need to partner. I'm a strong believer in public-private partnerships. partner our city council, when I'm a city council person, with UCI and with our property owners. And there are several apartments throughout our city and a lot of apartments near Irvine for students or people that just graduated, just getting into their careers, where we can partner as the city council, UC Irvine, and private property owners in order to make affordable housing available. As many of you already know, and many of you have already discussed, we have the Irvine Community Land Trust, which does offer a certain percentage of apartment rentals at a percentage as affordable housing units. And that is wonderful that we have that as a city. However, we need to do more. And so that is why when I am a city council person, I will partner, like I said, public-private partnerships to see what we can do. And to have this be for students, graduate students, and those just getting their careers going. So we do need to be there, and we need to make more strides in that arena. As I mentioned, I have a state and local background. So one of the state bills I've always contemplated was, and I've talked to Families Forward about this many times, I've sat in the former CEO of the nonprofit Families Forward, and I came up with an idea, let's have a state bill where we can work with the nonprofits and initiate a bill to reduce rent by giving tax incentives to property owners that are willing to rent their properties for a lower than market value in order to open up more affordable housing. So I think we need to partner when I'm on the city council with our state representatives as well and bring some solutions to Irvine, because we do have a wonderful city. We have a wonderful community. We have UC Irvine, the students, and we want people to stay here and thrive and be able to live here and go to school here and work here. Thank you.
Larry Agrin, you are next.
Yes, this is an area where the city of Irvine has actually a proud and exemplary program of real leadership in the provision of affordable housing. Most people living in Irvine now don't know that the whole question of affordable housing was raised in the 1970s when a number of residents here in the city sued the city council and sued the Irvine company to compel them to make good on a general plan promise of affordable housing, a promise that went unfulfilled for a good many years. There are now today, as a result of programs that flowed from that initial confrontation, there are now 5,000 affordable housing units in Irvine. Generally speaking, making housing available on a basis of 1/3 of a family's income going to rent. And then beyond that, there are other additional programs as well. But usually these efforts require real arm wrestling. Partnership, yes, but arm wrestling with the developers. Developers come in, they want to put in high-end, high-profit housing. Well, it requires, when you really think about it, the city pushing back and say, no, we need more affordable housing as well. And out of that, yes, you can form a partnership. Other cities promise to do things, but they haven't done them. City of Irvine in the past has promised and performed, and we have to perform even better in the future.
Thank you. Tammy Kim, you are next to answer.
So as a single mother and a founder of a nonprofit organization that serves the immigrant communities, I really understand the issue of affordable housing. Irvine has doubled in size over the past decade, but our affordable housing inventory has not grown at the same rate. Meanwhile, our housing has only become that much unaffordable. In Irvine, we now have more renters than we have homeowners for this very reason. And people, as many of you know, people who are not appropriately housed are at greater risk for mental health issues, food insecurity, and other challenges. And we have to do more to protect the existing stock of affordable housing and put measures in place that will continue to add additional units within the city. So, I've spoken to many students, and, many of them live in like 5 or 6 in a small university town center apartment, having 3 students in a master room and 2 students in a smaller room, and, different rooms partitioned off in order to make ends meet. And our housing policies, they have to realize that we are a job center and that we have to do more to ensure housing at every income level. And when I'm elected, I will work to ensure that we work with our development partners to create more workforce housing opportunities, to ensure that programs for mid-salary professionals and those who just graduated from college, such as our teachers, our nurses, our firefighters, our social workers who add to our community, are able to live here. We have to also advocate for safe and affordable housing options for our college students, both on campus as well as on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now in open discussion for this topic. Candidates, you may physically raise your hand to be called on. If you would like a rebuttal at the end of the opening discussion period, you have 30 seconds. Laura, I believe you were first.
Yes, I just want to say that, like I said, Irvine does allocate 10% of their apartments home to low-income families, and I am a product of that. Yes, I do agree there should be more, but at the same time, I also tell people all these new constructions, these apartments, they're going to allocate 10% of those to low-income families and moderate families. Get on that list right now. We have to be proactive as well. So I tell the students, I'll tell people right now that are watching and listening, call 211, call families forward, go Google when we're done for Irvine housing lists. Get on these lists. They're there, they're available, and you can utilize them. I did it while I was in college. A couple of my college friends, they moved to Irvine when I told them about the list. We have to be aware of these programs. There are a host of resources, not just in Irvine, but in Orange County, Newport Beach, Mission Viejo, they all have the same thing. And I know people that were proactive and they saw apartment complex come up and they were the first ones on the list. So please do those things. It worked.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to respond? Yes, Larry, agree?
Yes, I'd like to just add something related to this. Housing is affordable to people who have incomes that can afford the housing. And one of the things that tragically happened in this city was that after I and others instituted not just a minimum wage, but a living wage in the city of Irvine that was $2 per hour more than the state minimum wage. That was actually repealed several years ago by now Mayor Christina Shea and others who felt that our minimum wage in Irvine should be the same as the state's minimum wage. Well, we need to reinstitute a living wage that would today be $15 an hour and would always be $2 an hour higher than the state minimum wage. That's one way of addressing the affordable housing problem.
Thank you. Tammy Kim?
Yeah, as a mother of a son who just went to college, I want my son to be able to come back to the city of Irvine and to be able to live here and to be able to work here. And at this rate, it's going to be very difficult for even students at UCI to be able to stay here and continue to contribute because of the lack of affordable housing. So the city of Irvine is required to plan for over 12,000 affordable units. And at the most recent update, the city maintains currently an inventory of about 4,100, almost 4,100 affordable rental units and 13 ownership units for low-income households. But the wait list is like 5,000. And so we have to do a lot more, but we also need to have more inventory for working families as well.
Thank you, Tammy Kim. Would Dylan or Carrie like to respond? Carrie O'Malley?
Thank you. So again, I agree. I think that we need to have these public-private partnerships. We need to have more availability of these affordable housing units. We have more and more people going to college. My daughter just started at UCLA. As you can tell, we're big UC families. And she's living at home because of COVID and she's doing it online. But when the students come back to UC Irvine and start going through their classes as the years progress, and the graduate students, they're going to graduate, and they're gonna, many of them will stay here in Irvine to get jobs, to be productive. And we need to have a plan for them. We need to have affordable units for the college students, for those just leaving college and graduating, and for those just coming to Irvine to get their careers off the ground. So we have these wonderful business community, but we need to, and we attract so many people that want to live here, also address the housing situation. So we do need to offer more affordable housing units and do a public-private partnership to make those available. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dylan Green.
More affordable housing, especially for students. I know as an undergrad, when I came here, I ended up just living with my parents because the moving out was just so economically untenable for me. And I'm sure that a lot of students are the same way. UCI has a very high commuter population, partially because it's not affordable to live in Irvine. So again, that's why I'm in favor of increasing zoning for affordable housing. It's great that we have these programs that people can get affordable housing. I think, like Tammy mentioned, I didn't know that the wait list was so long, but I think it just kind of proves my point that we have a great affordable housing program, but it's just not enough yet. We need to increase the amount of affordable housing so that these people can actually make use of these programs that Laura has mentioned, and immediately they can get the housing that they want and they can get those benefits that they're looking for.
Thank you, candidates, and that completes our first part of tonight's event. We will be having a 5-minute break, and when we return, the moderators will be asking the candidates questions submitted by the public. Attendees, feel free to utilize the Q&A feature now to submit a question to be answered by the candidates.
Thank you. We will return from our break at 8:13. Welcome back, everyone. We are now back from our 5-minute break. We will move into the town hall portion of the debate. For the town hall portion, we have collected questions from the Irvine community and from the Q&A feature, and we will ask them in the order that we received them. I will give it one more second for all the candidates to turn their camera back on. All right. For this portion, once I ask the question, you can feel free to raise your hand, similar to the open discussion portion, and we will call on you. Our first question comes from Karen. How will you address issues pertaining to the Great Park neighborhood residents that have gone largely ignored for the past 7 years? Dylan Green, I saw your hand first.
What is potentially the obvious answer to this, although it might be perhaps unexpected for some people, but we have a 5-person city council, one of whom is mayor. These 5 people are expected to represent 300,000 people almost. First off, I think that's not enough. Second off, the council members are elected at large, which means all 5 of these people are expected to advocate for everyone in Irvine. The city council's job is to be an advocate for the constituents of Irvine. Their job is to fight for what people want. And I just think that on a 5-person council who are expected to represent the entirety of Irvine, they can't do that. And the Great Park neighborhoods are a prime example of the failure of that current system. They are kind of on the outskirts of Irvine, and they're expected to be represented by these people in the middle of Irvine who maybe have never been there, which is why I'm in favor of expanding the city council, but also in favor of making it districted like the school board is. We elect the school board by districts. Why not the city council?
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley, I saw your hand next.
Thank you. So I've been talking for years about having an ethics commission, and the ethics commission will vet issues regarding ethics in government. But one of the primary issues I'd like to see vetted when I'm a city council person is expanding our council to seven or 9 individuals, as well as districting, because we do need representation of every area of Irvine. The Great Park community you mentioned by name, I actually just spoke with some residents today in the Great Park community, and it's very important. I would like to start a Great Park advisory committee because so much is going on in that section of Irvine right now. We have the Great Park to address. We have many other issues to address. And so I would start a Great Park Advisory Committee when I am on the council. And I'm very excited to bring that to the council and bring that to our city, have open communication, open dialogue with the residents, and for us to be their voice at the city council level. I am running to represent everybody, all of Irvine, with inclusivity, kindness, and respect, and look forward to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy, you may go next.
We need more open and transparent process, especially for all of our business in Irvine. But right now, a lot of the meetings that are happening in the Great Park are happening without any resident input. They don't know what's going on. People are trying to figure out what projects are being discussed, what's going in, where are they in a particular project life cycle. And at this point, the residents, even the ones who are trying their best to pay attention to what's going on, have no idea what's going on, and they're trying and they're working really hard, but most of the meetings are closed door, especially with COVID. They have no access, no ability to even comment, to know what's going on. We have to change this. We have to have the residents know what's going on and have them be part of the process.
Thank you. Laura, you may go next.
Yes, I just wanted to say that's sad because every resident of Irvine needs to be heard, all of us. And if, city council kind of dropped the ball on the Great Park, this is why we need better change, not just change, but better change. And If the people that live by the Great Park, if you feel as though your voice is not being heard as a public servant, yes, I agree with Tammy. We do need to be transparent. People call us, email us. I receive emails all the time, and people ask me how I feel about different subjects. And I received one today regarding homeschooling. And I said, yes, I totally support homeschooling. As a citizen, you have that right if you want to homeschool your child. If you feel as though your voice isn't heard, contact us, let us know so your voice can be on the agenda, so we can let you know when we're having meetings, so we can raise those questions that you guys have. But we have to know, everybody has to be transparent, and that open door policy
Thank you.
needs to be implemented. Thank you.
Larry, would you like to respond? Larry, you're muted.
Yes, I just wanted to echo Dylan Green's comments. Irvine is the largest city in the state of California that does not have district elections. Again, we're the largest city in the state of California without district elections. If we were to go to a mayor elected at large, and even as few as 4 council districts, each of those districts would have a population of about 75,000 people, which is very manageable, but it would reinforce our local representative democracy in good ways. Let me say, as far as the Great Park neighborhoods go, additionally, we need to get about the business of building the Veterans Memorial Park and Cemetery. That is an asset of extraordinary value, and the current city council is blocking its construction. That has to change.
Thank you.
An anonymous attendee asks, do you believe that Irvine has a problem regarding racial injustice? You may raise your hands if you want to speak. Laura Breton?
Yes, 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 unequivocally yes. Just like the rest of the world, the United States, it is in our back door as well. And I think it's sad when I talk to people and they tell me it's not here. It is here. Watch the news, newsletters, next door, just what's going on in Irvine with the Black community, or I'm just going to say minorities. We are targeted. And I'm not saying that it just happens to us, but it happens to us 5 more times than it happens to other people. So I think that that is a major problem. And I believe that we need training for the officers so they don't come into a hostile situation, already hostile, making the situation worse. That's a major problem. So yes, we need to be transparent with the police. We need to have talks, but not just talks. We need to be found doing the right thing for all of us, everybody. Everybody, we are created equally, and we should be treated like that.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to respond? Dylan Green, your hand's up next.
Justices in Irvine, and I agree that they are potentially not well known is not necessarily the right term, but let's just say that most people like to either ignore them or pretend they don't exist. A very good friend of mine and someone who ran in 2018, Kev Abazagian, as a candidate was subject to racist attacks based on their heritage. It's something that pervades Irvine, but is sometimes ignored because Irvine is 40% white and 45% Asian American. I have advocated for racial sensitivity training for our police department. Again, we have a relatively decent police department, but there's always room for improvement, and we always want to make sure they're doing their best. These are the kind of problems that we should be able to solve as a city. In my opinion, racial injustice is a problem that should have been solved 60 to 100 to 300 years ago, but we're still dealing with it today. So it's time we finally put a stop to it.
Thank you, Dylan Green. Tammy Kim, I believe you had your hand next.
So racial injustice has existed for the past 400 years. and it exists within Irvine with all communities of color. For example, we've got Black and brown communities who are afraid to drive through Irvine because they're going to be pulled over by the police. We have now, because of COVID, anti-Asian discrimination in rhetoric that's happening throughout the city. Just 3 days ago, just on Monday, the Irvine Chinese Cultural Center was vandalized for the second time. The Korean American Center was vandalized. And this is what is happening within the city of Irvine, because we've got leaders from the top, and we've got a city council and a mayor who is emboldening these people to attack and to use dog whistles against people. So for example, I was attacked by the mayor of Irvine, who accused me of supporting less police protection and more violence because I supported Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Tammy. Carrie O'Malley, you're next.
Thank you. So I appreciate what Dylan Green brought up, because I do know Kev Abazajian very well, and I know him from outside of the circles that we both ran together 2 years ago in Irvine City Council. We are both of Armenian descent. I am 100% Armenian descent. My dad was born in Syria in a small village called Kesab, Syria, of 100% Armenian descent, and he moved to the United States when he was 14 years old. So we grew up knowing the stories from my grandparents, and also firsthand when I was young in Los Angeles growing up. Both my mom and my dad are Armenian descent. So, and I had friends of all ethnicities, and I still do. Growing up in LA, it's very important, and also down here in Orange County, that we integrate everybody. And that's why my slogan is leadership for all of Irvine, was inclusivity, respect. I tell my children, I've raised them the same way. We need to include everybody. And so I know what Kev Abazajian went through. I've gone through that before in the Los Angeles area, here in Orange County. But everybody's going through this with different, like Tammy brought up. We see it all the time, and I know Laura brought it up. And we need to stop this. We need to have inclusivity of everybody.
Thank you, Carrie O'Malley. Larry, would you like to respond? You're on mute, Larry.
I don't think we have a significant problem with our police department. In fact, I was instrumental in seeing to it that the police department became thoroughly integrated, thoroughly well-trained, all college educated, sensitive to the extraordinary diversity and integration in the Irvine community. I used to insist when I was mayor, if there was any reported complaint that was rooted in some kind of profiling, racial injustice, anything of any substance complained about with respect to the police, I wanted it brought to my attention immediately. And we had good chiefs of police who got on top of these things. So I think it's important to separate the policing from other issues. Obviously, there are always people in a community who are targeting others, targeting immigrants, targeting on a racial basis. And I think you need to look to the mayor of this city right now, who is hostile to immigrants, hostile to immigrants.
Carrie O'Malley, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Thank you. So I agree with Larry Agrin. I think that our police department is very top notch, and that's how we are the safest city in the United States. However, it goes beyond that. I think we need to have inclusivity, and it needs to come from the top down. It needs to come from the city council. We need, when we're city council members, when I am on the city council, we need to integrate all. I am already doing that. I am holding socially distanced meetings at parks with a few folks that have contacted me here and there from different groups. And I just say, please send whoever you'd like. And we have meetings representing all diversity, all just everybody.
Thank you, Carrie.
And so we need to continue to do that.
Thank you. We can move on to the next. Laura Bratton, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Yes, if something happened to my home, myself, my child, or anyone in my family, yes, I will call the police. I am for the police. We need the police, but we need the right police in there that takes the tension away from the situation. So anyone making the assumption that it's not here, it is here. And please reach We the People, because if you spoke to We the People and you were informed on what's going on, you would already know. And I think that the way you answer the question would be a lot different. Black Lives Matter.
Thank you, Laura. Tammy, Kim, you can go.
Yeah, so I think implicit bias exists everywhere. And I don't think the city of Irvine or the city staff or the IPD are immune from this implicit bias. It is embedded in us for the past 400 years. And we need to work and eradicate that. But for us not to admit that the implicit bias exists is part of the problem. Secondly, is we do have a police department that lacks the cultural competency and the language skills to work with a diverse community here in Irvine. And we can work to change that. This is to help make us a better and safer community. And I've brought this up to them. And I feel that, again, we will be better when we can be critical and head on with what's going on in our city. Thank you.
Would any other candidates like to respond before we move ahead? I believe Carrie, you already went, so. Dylan Green, you may go.
Like implicit bias, that it's entirely possible that you may never experience it yourself, but we need to keep open dialogue for people who have. I attended the Monday debate, and Christina Dillard told a story about her and how some of her friends drive through Irvine and are very worried that they're going to be pulled over by the police. So even though I have never had a problem with the police, and potentially people here haven't either, we should keep an open mind, and I would be fully in favor and completely advocating for opening that dialogue with people in the community, because sometimes the police won't self-police, and it's important that people who are affected by them come back and bring those issues to our attention.
Thank you, Dylan. Okay, we can move on to the next question now.
Thank you. An anonymous attendee asked, should the Irvine Unified School District continue to open schools even though there are confirmed COVID cases within schools? Dylan, you may go first.
Because I love all our teachers. Teachers who have shaped who I am as a person living here in Irvine. And like I said earlier, my mom works in the school district. She is a librarian, and she comes to me with these stories of how the teachers are absolutely terrified about being in school, and they're absolutely scared of getting COVID, not only because that's a health risk for them, but a lot of the teachers we have really care about their students, and they recognize that if they get COVID, or if someone in their class does, they're not going to be able to teach those students. And that's a problem. I think that we really should be listening to the teachers on this. For a lot of other businesses, they have the ability to listen to their employees on whether they want to open or not. We didn't give the teachers in our school district that opportunity, and we should. And what I'm hearing is that a lot of teachers say, no, we shouldn't have opened. They're struggling with Zoom. They want to teach the kids though, but they want to do it safely, and they want to make sure that they can teach those kids. And we should have gone to the teachers and seen what they wanted and what they want now. And I think what they want is not to open.
Thank you. Laura Bratton, you may go next.
I am so glad someone finally said we need to talk to the teachers. You are completely right. Every educator that I know has said, no, we should not open right now. We have to open responsibly, people. We have to follow the CDC guidelines. It's a reason why they're there. They are there to protect us, and we have to protect our kids. I'm going to be totally honest. My daughter is 26 right now, but I would not send her to school in the middle of COVID. She would just have to be home with me. And yes, as a parent, we all need a break from our children, but I don't need that big of a break where I feel as though my daughter might go to school and catch COVID and then come back and give it to our family. It's not worth it. It is not worth these kids going to school and bringing it back to us or them getting it. So we need to talk to the teachers. And if they're saying no, then we need to listen to them because they're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones that are there. And as a public servant, we have to listen to the community and we have to listen to these teachers. Thank you.
Larry, you may answer. Larry, you're muted.
Thank you. It's not just a question of IUSD, Irvine Unified School District. It's also a question of Tustin Unified School District, which administers a good many schools in the city of Irvine. What's really missing here is a public health workforce that the city has that can be deployed to the schools. Roughly 24 additional school nurses to assist in this reopening and stay open process. It's very dicey, it's very dangerous, it's very difficult, and we need a public health workforce to help make this work. The city should pay for that. It should pay for it out of its rainy day funds. I can't believe I'm watching the mayor and council sit on a $50 million rainy day contingency fund as though they can never spend a nickel of it. Now is the time to spend some money to help the schools not only reopen, but stay open.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley.
Thank you. So I agree. We need to talk to the teachers. We need to have, as I mentioned a few questions ago, a health advisory committee. And when I'm council member, I will start a health advisory committee. And with these issues, such as reopening and how will we do this safely, we need to rely on the experts, doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, Hoag, UCI. We have these wonderful sources right here in our city. And then we need to collaborate with the teachers and talk to them and implement a dialogue. They are the ones in the classroom. They know. And then the healthcare providers, they know, they are educated in science and in medicine. We need to have a healthcare advisory committee to help us do these things safely, reopen if it's deemed safe to do so, and how that will be done. So when I am a council member, I am calling for the healthcare advisory committee, staffed by doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, and to be in this dialogue with the teachers. Also on October 21st, I'm having a community service effort, a Zoom event. I've done a lot of Zoom events on my campaign. Everybody's invited, it's complimentary, and it's called Ask the Educator. I have a 5th grade teacher who works locally in a public school. I have a high school teacher and a tutor, has a tutor doctor person. And
Thank you. We will be moving on to Tammy. Would you like to respond?
Yes, so I echo the fact that we need to consult our teachers. As an educator myself, and as somebody who runs an organization with teaching programs, we've moved everything online. But I also recognize that with moving everything online, and I've moved it online explicitly for the sake of the teachers. But when you go to the students, there is a digital divide that we have to recognize. So what this whole situation has really exposed is the growing digital divide between the haves and the have-nots. And it is intensified. So we have to be able to close that, but we have to make sure that our teachers are comfortable with teaching. And I'll say it again and again and again. We have to go back to robust testing. If we're sending our teachers on the front line to the schools and we're not offering testing, then it's going to be a problem. So we have to offer these solutions. They have to get free testing, and we can work with our community partner clinics across the county for this as well. We have to work with the city to be able to provide this, but ultimately, whether or not teachers teach is a school board decision.
Thank you.
The next question comes from an anonymous attendee. They asked, ARDA is not an approved site to build a cemetery. It is not funded by the state. Why should we fight? / why are you fighting for the Veterans Cemetery to be built on this site, even though, again, it is not approved by state and is not funded? Would anybody like to respond? Larry Agrin? Larry, you're on mute.
The premise of that question is entirely wrong. The ARTA site was the approved and designated site by the City Council in 2014. It was unanimously approved at the time. It was approved by CalVet. It was approved by the state legislature. It was approved by the federal government. And it's only when Mayor Christina Shea and a couple of others, backed by 5 Point Development, sought to undermine that project, that it was a veteran cemetery site that was then in controversy. The fact of the matter is the people of the city have twice reinforced that original decision, saying that they want a Veterans Memorial Park and Cemetery. By referendum, they said they wanted at the ARTA site. And they did that also by way of initiative, which was adopted by the council. That is, by the law of the city, the overwhelmingly supported designated site. And there is $24.5 million already set aside to build it.
Dylan Green, you can respond.
So why are some of us fighting for this site so much? And I think it goes back to something that I've been trying to hammer home this whole debate, which is that city council members should represent the constituents. Like Larry said, an overwhelming amount of people want it at the ARTA site. Now, whether or not the state is going to go, okay, we're going to give the funding for that, that's, I think, not the point. The point is that as a city council member, my job is to fight for what the people want. And the people want it, including myself, at the ARTA site. So when I become a city council member, if you decide to vote for me, that's what I'm going to fight for, because that's what the people want. The majority of Irvine voted. The majority of Irvine multiple times said ARTA site. That's what I'm going to fight for. That's what we should fight for, because again, we should represent the people. We should represent the people who voted us into office, the people who continue to basically pay our salaries and keep us in office.
Thank you, Dylan. Carol O'Malley, you can go next.
Thank you. So this comes back to the Ethics Commission, and the pillar of my campaign is the Ethics Commission. As Larry said, as several of us have said, this has been voted on time and time again. Over 68% of the Irvine voters have voted in favor of the ARTA site for the Veteran Cemetery. Our job as city council members is to put into action the voices and be the voice of the constituents. So the majority of the constituents have voted. This has been voted, as Larry mentioned, on the council front, and we need to proceed. And the fact that this has been voted on by the constituents and voted on in the past by the council and has not occurred is exactly why we need an ethics commission. And this is not just one item. There are several items why we need the ethics commission. So when I'm a council member, I will work hard to make the ARTA site, the Veteran Cemetery and Memorial Gardens at the ARTA site, a reality. I will work with my state, the state contacts that we have, CalVet, and all involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy, would you like to respond?
The city council approved the initiative and turned it into an ordinance to make the Veteran Cemetery at the ARTA site. I don't know what other way to put that. It is already done. It is already approved, period. So the question, as Larry had mentioned, as Carrie had mentioned, is just based on just false information. So that's what I have to say about that. So we have to move forward, and we have to, move the project forward as the city council had approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to clarify for the, sorry, go ahead. Laura.
Hello. I don't want to reiterate what everybody already said because they're right. I just want to say that I am for the Veteran Cemetery. All of us are for the cemetery. My husband was in the military. My grandfather was in the military. I have a host of friends and other relatives that fought for this great country. And I am for the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to clarify for the audience that we are reading the questions as they were submitted in regards to this past question. The next question reads, do you have any responses or comments to the current attacks on vote by mail and the rise of fake ballot drop-off boxes in Orange County? Dylan Green?
By mail has been shown to be a consistently safe option to vote. I think that in times of COVID, expanding the vote by mail option has been the best decision that's been made at local, state, and federal level. I find it absolutely abhorrent that there are people who are trying to manipulate that system to limit people's right to vote. This country was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, which means we should all have the right to vote. Doesn't matter who we're voting for. I think that this is a moment where the city council has the opportunity, and they should come out and condemn these actions because it's happening here in Irvine. And that's something that's directly affecting the city council and something that the city council should be taking steps to prevent. That's my thoughts on that. People have been voting for mail for centuries. Voting by mail is still safe. Just make sure when you submit your ballot, double check everything. I double checked everything on my ballot. So please do.
Thank you. Laura Bratton, I saw your hand first.
I would just like to say this is a travesty. I don't understand. Whoever is doing this makes no sense. People just Google where you're supposed to go or call City Hall, do something to make sure that your vote is heard. I believe UCI, you guys have a box there. I just watched the news the other night, so they showed us exactly what those boxes look like, which is unlike the ones that are approved. So people just know what you're doing. Please be aware, even before you go, call like I said, call City Hall to make sure that is the right box. We just have to be aware. We have to let you guys know that those boxes, they were dark black boxes. Those boxes, those are not ballot boxes at all. Watch the local news. Google what the box is supposed to look like. Because right now we have to be aware of what's going on and knowing what box to put it in and what not to put it in.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley? Oh, sorry. Actually, I had seen Tammy Kim before.
Yeah, so the attack on vote by mail is very terrible. It's a vindictive attack on our voting process and our democracy. We're really fortunate here in Orange County that we've already had universal vote by mail, which started even pre-COVID. So for Orange County residents, this is nothing new. We will continue to have vote by mail, and we will continue to have vote centers. We just need to make sure that our residents use either the US Postal Service or use the drop boxes designated by the county. It is ultimately the job of the Orange County Register of Voters to help with the education, but we can partner with the Orange County Register of Voters, which is really an amazing, amazing department, and work as a member of the community election workforce group. We can work very closely with our partners to make sure we educate voters and ensuring that we're not dropping off our ballots into fake.
Thank you. Carrie O'Malley, you are next.
Thank you. So I think it's a travesty as well. This is horrible that this is happening. So we need to make sure that all is on the up and up, that the correct vote boxes, that the correct vote by mail is being abided by. And so we need to make sure our democracy is protected. And there are these options to drop off or to mail, but we do need to make sure. So I would agree. Contact the Registrar of Voters if you have any questions. Go on their website. The website is ocvote.com. Also, when you mail your ballot or if you put it in the ballot box, you can track that ballot. So you can go to ocvote.com. And sometimes it does take a few days because it gets there by mail, but you should definitely track it. I would urge everybody to go online, track it, make sure that you see that your vote was counted. If there's any question, contact the registrar of voters. But again, we need to make sure that our democracy is protected, that every vote is protected, and that people are able to exercise their right to vote, and that is in a protected way, so that it's not, that nothing goes wrong with that. So again, please contact ocvote.com.
Thank you. Larry Agron, I believe you are next to answer.
This question implies what we all understand, I think, which is that this is a moment of truth for American democracy. I'll tell you, if we don't get through this election with American democracy intact and the vote protected, I fear for the future of our country. We have a president and his enablers in the Republican Party who have made it a matter of national policy to undermine in whatever way they can the right to vote at the state level and at the local level. We have an ugly history here in Orange County. Thankfully, it's not a recent one. I agree the registrar of voters is outstanding, but we have had instances of poll guards and all kinds of ways to intimidate voters. The antidote to all this is clear: vote. Get people to vote.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to the last question of this town hall portion.
Irvine is a city of almost 300,000 residents, yet we only have 5 city council seats. Do you prefer expanding the council seats, or do you favor electing council seats by a districting method? First hand, I believe, was Carrie O'Malley.
Thank you. So again, this goes back to the pillar of my campaign, the Ethics Commission. I believe we need to expand the number of seats on the city council. When I moved here 23 years ago, we were at a population of 150,000. Now we're nearly 300,000 in population. We're 280,000 plus in population. That's nearly double in size. For us to only have 5 council members is just awful. We need to have at least 7 or 9 council members on the city council. And again, we also need to be districted. In order for all the voices to be heard, we need to be districted. So as I mentioned, the Ethics Commission would be the best way to be a receptacle to make this change and to be ethical and to have ethical ways of districting and having our voices. So again, I am in favor of expanding the city council and also of having the districts and having the Ethics Commission be the way that we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy Kim is next.
Yes, so we have had the same number of council seats since the city was established in 1971, when we had 10,000 residents. And now we're at 300,000 residents, or nearly 300,000 residents, and we have the same number of city council seats, which is one of the smallest in the entire county. We need to work to expand the number of city council seats at minimum to 7, which is 6 council seats and a mayor. If not more than that, I think 6 would be a good number for start. And we have to put into our plan that as the population grows, that we will expand the city council seats moving forward. Right now, the reason why this is important is because we have too much power in the hands of the few. And we have to work on expanding the city council seats. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Dylan Green was next, and then Larry.
Mute. So I brought this up earlier. I've been in favor since I started my campaign of increasing the size of the city council, not just to increase representation, but because it'll increase transparency. The more people there are on the council, the more we can keep each other in check, which is something that the council should be doing to begin with. I'm heavily also in favor, in addition to expanding the size of the council, districting the council. Again, we elect the school board by district, but we city council by district. Both of these have massive, massive influence over the city. One of them is expected to represent the whole city. One of them represents only their core constituency. Another thing is, imagine if the city council was composed of only people who lived in Turtle Rock, who have huge high incomes. Can you expect a member of a 5-city council where everyone lives in Turtle Rock to advocate for the rights of the people who live in the lower income areas of Irvine? Personally, I don't think so.
Thank you, Dylan. Larry Agron, you can go next.
I think the question isn't so much expanding the size of the council, it's going to district elections, because then each council member geographically would be representing about 75,000 people. That is an important change that needs to take place. If it's not done by the council itself, through a charter commission, I would say not an ethics commission, but a charter commission. If it's not done by the council itself, it will be forced upon us by a court of law under the California Voting Rights Act. I would also say that it's imperative that we move to districts. Smaller districts means less money in campaigns, and it means less control by developers who put dark money into citywide campaigns that are so much more expensive.
Before we have the rebuttals, Laura, did you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say, I was asked this question a while back. And at that time, I said, no, I just think we need an ethics committee, because I don't care if it's 5, 7, or 9, we need an ethics committee to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And as I talked to my constituents, they said, no, Laura, there needs to be more people on city council. So as a public servant, we need to do the best thing for the residents of Irvine. And if majority of Irvine want to have more people on city council, then that's what I'm for. I'm for we the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Tammy Kim, you can have a 30-second rebuttal.
Yes, so we need to expand the city council. When it comes to districting, going into districts, regarding the Irvine Unified School District, the reason why they're districted is because 60% of the students they serve are Asian American, but there were no Asian Americans on the school board. That is why they redistricted. The reason why we should not redistrict, but why we should evaluate that is because it's not going to achieve what the goals are for the Federal Voting Rights Act. And we will be more disenfranchised if we are districted.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. Dylan Green, you can go. Larry, you can go after Dylan Green.
Oh, very
I
good.
want to respond to both Larry and Tammy, but I'm going to start with Larry because that's who I originally raised my hand for. A 5-member council expected to represent 75,000 people each. For a sense of size for the people at home, that would mean one council member is expected to represent double the size of UCI on its own. Personally, I think like even UCI on its own should be represented by one person, just that population. I mean, the population here at UCI is on the order of 35,000. So two UCIs for one council member, I don't see the math working out for getting to meet every constituent and represent all of them.
Thank you. Larry Agron, you can rebut little.
I think whether it's 5 or 7 or 9, districting is key. I have to disagree with Tammy as I understood her. To have these council members elected at large in campaigns that cost $100,000 or $200,000 and are infused with dark money is itself unethical, unworkable, and a corrupt creation. We have to move to districts where you could have an election where you can get elected with $50,000 or less.
Thank you. So we have reached the end of our debate for tonight. Candidates, you each have 2 minutes to deliver your closing statements. Dylan Green, you may start.
Okay. Tonight I presented what I think is a rather bold and quite, some may say, brash vision for Irvine. I have big plans for what I'd like to do for this city, but the core thrust of my campaign, and hopefully I was able to communicate this tonight, was that I want to represent the will of the people. Site with the Veterans Cemetery, people voted on that. That's what we should fight for. The key to doing that is to holding ourselves accountable, holding the city council accountable, and making sure that it is accurate and serving the wills of the people. Now, there's multiple ways to address that: districting, increasing the size. I think the simplest is just already we can hold our city council accountable, and I already do that. I hold myself accountable, and I hold everybody else on the stage accountable. You better believe I read all of their campaign disclosure agreements, all the paperwork they filed. I read all of it. And that's the core thrust of the issue here. You want to be voting for someone who's going to represent you. Tonight, I tried to present why I am the best choice to represent you at home. Someone who is a regular Irvine voter who has concerns about all of these topics and more. We didn't touch on things like traffic as a major topic. I know some of us mentioned it. We didn't talk a lot about things like education funding from property taxes. All of these I have plans for on my website. I have created what I believe to be the most comprehensive plan for the future of Irvine out of every candidate who is running this year. And if you want to see that for yourself, prove it to yourself, you can go to my website at greenforirvine.com and you can see my plan for everything: climate change, development, traffic, corona recovery. My goal is to be the most plan-oriented candidate who will represent you at home, and hopefully I did that. And I just want to say a last thank you to ASUCI for hosting this debate.
Thank you, Dylan. Carrie O'Malley, you're up next.
Thank you. I want to thank the organizers of this. It's been very informative for all of us, and thank the audience. So like I said, I've been here in Irvine for 23 years. I'm an original homeowner. I've raised my kids here. I have 2 teenage children. We've lived every aspect of Irvine. We love this city. And I have been involved with every aspect of the city. I want to bring my public policy know-how to the Irvine City Council to produce solutions. I'm results oriented. I've had decades of public policy experience at the local and state level. I am running a community-based and issue-based campaign. I know how to get things done, and I could hit the ground running on the first day as a council member. Again, my background is in public policy and law. I attended UC Santa Barbara. I have 2 degrees from UC Santa Barbara, philosophy and law and society. I then went on to Harvard Law School, and then I went on for a career in public policy. So I can hit the ground running. I know how the workings of government and how to get things done. Also, just wanted to touch upon my public service. I have a public service heart. I have been a CASA advocate, a court-appointed special advocate, helping abused children navigate through the court system for years. And this has been very near and dear to my heart, and I will continue to help our children and our families. I'm also on the Joyful Child Foundation board in memory of Samantha Runyon. I am very much involved with child safety issues and the safety of our families and our individuals and all of our residents. I also very much believe in an open door policy. I am here to represent each and every resident of Irvine. I take calls all the time on my personal cell phone. I listed my personal cell phone that I've had for 24 years on my ballot statement, and I get calls all the time and emails all the time, and I thrive on that. I love that. So again, I'll continue to have an open door policy and hear from the constituents and be their voice on the council. I will work hard for you each and every day. Like I said, I'm the daughter of an immigrant. I know hard work. I know how to get things done, and I have a very, very strong.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Larry Agrin, you're up next.
Yes, I want to echo what others have said. Thank the organizers for tonight's event, ASUCI, also the larger university community. I want to thank my colleagues here too. We're all competing for public office, and this kind of forum represents the best of American democracy, where people can exchange ideas, offer alternatives to the people of our city, and of course, conduct an election that is free and fair to choose new leadership for the city. This city desperately needs new leadership. We need a new mayor. We need a new city council. We need a council that is free of developer control, dark money committees, money that is infusing the entire campaign process in a way that corrupts that process. Those of us who are here know how demanding a campaign can be, but what an opportunity it is as well to build community consensus. I stand for progressive values, for progressive programs. I offer my history of leadership as mayor and as a council member when the city really did some amazing things, preserving open space, creating affordable housing programs, creating the Great Park, creating so many opportunities to live in a diverse, harmonious community where we can all move forward. For those who are interested in restoring that kind of good leadership, good government, and good planning, I ask you for your vote. Go to my website, larryagron.com, for more information.
Thank you, Larry. Tammy, Kim, you may deliver your closing statement.
Yes, so thank you very much for hosting this. My immigrant experience and the work that I've done, both as a corporate executive and as a social entrepreneur, working with some of our most marginalized residents, has provided me with a worldview that intersects in so many ways with my civic involvement here in Irvine. It's not just about plans. I have plans, but I also have actions to back that up. As chair of the Language Access Committee for the Orange County Board Register of Voters, I fought to protect voters who are linguistically isolated. As a member of Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris's Education Advisory Council, I advocated for dual language immersion programs, multilingual education, and ethnic studies in our school. And as a member of Irvine's Complete Count Committee for the 2020 census, I've partnered with UCI and other community stakeholders to ensure that every single person in Irvine is counted, to ensure that we receive our fair share of federal funding. When elected, I will be ready to lead starting day one, which is why I'm the only candidate here tonight that has been endorsed by elected leaders such as Congresswoman Katie Porter, and by women's groups such as Planned Parenthood, and environmental groups such as the Sunrise Movement, and by California nurses and Orange County firefighters for my commitment to public safety, and by Orange County Labor Federation and other labor groups for my track record of standing up for working families. And I'm the only candidate here endorsed by Courage California, because I will stand up against special interests and I will put the needs of our residents first. And there's a reason why I have the most money spent against me by dark money and corporate interests. It's because this campaign, it's not about me, but it's about all of us. We have too much at stake. Thank you.
Laura Bratton, you can now deliver your closing statement.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for having me here. I love the residents of Irvine as well as everywhere else. I don't want to discount anyone. I just want to say that I am here because we need a bipartisan, diverse city council, period. We have to get away from the old way of thinking. People are a lot smarter now. We have social media so we can find out things, we can research things. I am here to be transparent. I am here for we, the people. I am a public servant. If anyone is unclear on anything I said, please email me at laurabratton1@gmail.com and we can have a conversation, because I am here for you. I am a public servant. And at the end of the day, I want to know what the people of Irvine want, because we work for you. It is not the other way around. I am here because I am an advocate for better change, not just change, because we can all change and we can change the wrong way. We need to change the right way moving forward on all issues. Every question that was said, how we answered it, we all believe certain things. And right now, I need the people of Irvine to stand up and say no more. no more to what's going on. So like I said, if anybody wants to reach me, if they have any questions, I already have other constituents emailing me and I get back to them within a 2 or 4 hour period because you guys come first. That open door policy starts right now and it starts when I'm elected. Thank you. My name is Laura Bratton and I love living in Irvine and I love what Irvine represents, but it's time for a better change. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I want to say thank you to all the candidates and to our audience for joining ASUCI and AGS for the second night of debates for Irvine City Council. Our mayoral forum will be this Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. and will be featuring candidates Farah Khan and Luis Wong. Please remember to register to vote through the link provided in the chat.
If any candidates want to stay back a little bit for a couple of minutes to answer direct questions from the attendees, you may. If you need to leave, that is perfectly fine as well. Attendees, please use the raise hand feature if you'd like to speak directly to a candidate, and we'll allow you to use your microphone. Other than that, if you're leaving, have a great night, and thank you for attending our first ever ASUCI hosted virtual debate. Candidates, you can go ahead and put your campaign information inside the chat. Make sure you have it listed as panelists and attendees, not just panelists. Do any attendees want to speak directly to the candidates? If not, oh, we have one. Andrew, if you'll unmute your mic, you'll be able to talk.
Yeah, thank you so much to the to Irvine City Council candidates. I've been watching the two debates, and I'm really impressed with the pool of people that we have running for government here in Irvine.
Awesome, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. I think we're ready to end. Thank you all for coming, and candidates, of course, thank you all for participating in this. Attendees, moderators, you all are the best. All right, Erin, we're good to go.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.